live. You're live. Great. Thanks for watching, everybody. I am figuring this out right now. I'm doing something a little bit new. I got some new software and stuff, so I'm trying to make sure that you guys can see me as well. Where am I? There I am. All right, great. So this is the first time I'm doing it. We're gonna let a couple people join the room and stuff, but I'm gonna try to do a pretty regular until this thing is over. I'm gonna try to do a pretty regular live stream show once a week. Maybe I'll do it on Sunday night. Maybe it'll be a different night of the week, but this is it. All right, and my guest tonight is Dr. Tony Luczak. Say hi, Tony.
Hey, Brendan, how are you?
Good, man.
Guys,
How are
the
you?
rest of the world, how's everybody? Oh, I'm awesome.
Great. A couple of rules of the road. There are YouTube rules about talking about what's going on, and we're not allowed to talk about it. Um, we can talk about anything we want to do with golf, but I guess there's some rules about YouTube where if you mention that, you'll get flagged. So we'll go around our personal opinions about that, and then tonight what we're going to talk about is making a swing change during this time. So uh, a lot of people, not me necessarily, but a lot of people have more time on their hands than they've ever had in years and years and years. And many people are taking that as a chance to make some swing changes that they've always kind of neglected or they've always wanted to do. The double-edged sword with that is that in a lot of states, you cannot play golf right now. In
Hmm.
California, you cannot play golf almost anywhere. In Sacramento, they have a few courses open. In San Luis Obispo, they have a few courses open, but certainly nowhere within 3 hours of Long Beach. And I know Arizona, they're open. Tony, what's the status there in Mississippi of golf?
We're open, so golf courses are open. I've actually, it's kind of nice from my standpoint to get out at 5:15, 5:30. I've played more golf in the last couple of weeks than probably in the last 4 years combined. Part of that was school, but so it's kind of nice. I'm enjoying this.
Okay, so let's talk about that before we get into how people can make a swing change. Let's talk about Tony. You haven't played a lot of golf recently, and then you've started to play more. So talk about the process of like gearing back into it. It's almost like for you been like an extended winter layoff. So once this thing is over and people are able to get back out on the course, what should they be thinking about as far as getting going again and getting sharp again with golf?
Well, I'll do my scenario first, and then we'll break it down into where everyone's at. So for me, the last thing I wanted to do is hit balls on the range. I actually wanted to play. I wanted to get a feel for the golf course, get a feel for how to hit a 150-yard kind of knockdown 8 iron or something like that. So for me, I've been nothing. My warm up is actually hitting wedges or sand wedges. We got a little short game area. Once I get kind of going, do some functional movements, then I'll hit to the golf course. So for me, I'm looking to play golf. I'm looking to try new shots and get a feel for that. Now, I think as we're kind of talking about, depending on what level or situation you're in, from a motor learning standpoint, if you are, let's say, want to get rid of the slice, and you're determined this year is going to be the year to get rid of the slice, going out and playing it would be the probably the worst thing is because those are your tendencies. We actually now want to bring those in, get you back into kind of a beginner mode in a sense to learn some of the basics, knowledge, what do they call knowledge of performance, how to make a swing change. So it just depends on where you are with the spectrum between new mechanics or playing the game and thinking less about mechanics.
Okay, so we'll go into the case right now, kind of like you were in. So if somebody knows that they say they've been had such a long layoff, they just don't know where they stand. They don't know how the ball's moving at all, but they know that they're going to be able to start golfing again in about like a week or 2 weeks. What would you have them do if all they can do is just, let's say they can't hit balls at all? All they can do is they're inside, but they know they're going to be going in about a week. What would you have them do in that week?
I would be looking at doing some functional training. I like the stuff where you can just take a light hand weight. Actually, back in the Nike Golf 360, which is Gary Gray and Dave Tiberio, doing a lot of the different motions with, let's say, a 5 pound weight is great. So now they have their own functional golf system now that their relationship with Nike's is done. Um, and so just getting into movements, working on some positionings, working on range of motion, stretching, that sort of thing, if you like the stretching or yoga, just doing things to get you to start moving faster. And then what I also would do is, whether it's a speed stick or a lightweight, uh, start swinging faster, swinging feet together. Just you have to get some swings in there somehow.
Hmm.
You don't have to hit balls, but just get some swings in.
Yeah, Hank Haney famously, when he's just starting with someone, the first prescription he gives everybody is just 100 swings a day.
Yeah.
Just get used to that. Okay, so now we're gonna go into making a swing change. So this is a lot of the people who watch Be Better Golf are like dedicated, like nuts golfers and a lot of them are plateaued. Like they feel they haven't gotten any better. I know that you and I have been working on some stuff, and you've done some research on how to make a swing change. So, how can this time maybe be an opportunity for people who have had a long-standing swing fault that they've always wanted to get over, say be it their sequence or their tilts or anything like that? How can they use this time in a different way than they normally would when they're playing golf like once a week?
Right. I think this is where the opportunity to utilize technology. It could be as something as simple as I got a TV behind me. Can you hook up a camera to a TV? Like I got my iPad. That's actually my iPad hooked up to the TV. Um, you need some sort of augmented feedback. And that's probably the biggest thing, whether that's like a station like you kind of set up with some noodles when you're out practicing, or whether it's like Live View or Swing View Pro has some video feedback, uh, kind of kind of this biomechanical or biofeedback type system where if you're out of position, you get some sound or some feedback that way. That's the biggest thing. You need to know exactly where you are, um, the best you can with 2D technology, or if you have the sensors, if you go to KVest or the, other things like that. But the technology is really important in order to develop an augmented feedback, to develop a feel in reality. And that's the challenge for most people.
Okay, well let's go to a specific example because I think people will resonate with that the most. So let's just take someone who's an over-the-top slicer, say like a good athlete, former baseball player, but just slices it, and they've always done it,
Yeah.
and so what would be a good augmented reality station or a good feedback station for them to do while stuck at home?
So what's interesting, and I sent you that one paper where most people come over the top and slice anyhow. If they put up a net and they just swing away, most of the time they're going to come over the top, and that's just because most sports that we grew up playing is an overhand sport, where golf is underhand. So one, we have to change the path. So the first thing we got to do is get a different path down. Now, I would say the simple thing is you throw two alignment sticks on the ground or two shafts on the ground, and that are aimed, 5, 6 degrees right of your target. And can you start swinging in that direction? That's simplicity. You don't even need any special tech with that. Whether you use Live View or Swing View Pro, or we've used these glasses, basics glasses, where you have head mounted displays where you can draw some lines on a screen and then be able to watch yourself as you swing through. Again, you could just go head over to Home Depot, Lowe's, get some PVC, get some pool noodles, set yourself up a station. Kind of like Mike Bender will do that. He has his whole Mexa station. Simplify that and reproduce that. So this way you get very specific feedback on your movement patterns. And that's probably, most people need that discipline in order to do that. And that's the challenge, because staying disciplined for 2 weeks working on one thing is very, very challenging.
Right, right. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up. It's going to be a bit of a detour, but I'm going to bring this up because I think it's so interesting. Tony sent me this study, and I'll show it to you there, guys, as it comes into focus. It'll be hard to see, but what it's saying is learning golf drive, the natural swing path tendency to slice, fade, or pull. So of these, in this, if you zip down to the conclusion, it revealed the natural swing path tendency to slice, fade, or pull for golf learners when learning the drive swing. So using the driver, and they found it. I gotta find the okay, there it is. This is a great graph here. So the of these golfers who are learning to play golf, there we see. Just let it come into focus for a second. There we are.
There you go.
Yeah, 77% of golfers have a dramatic outside in, so that would be like the classic slicer's path when they're first getting into golf. So, Tony, first of all, why does that happen? And then we'll get into how that then kind of creeps on for them, not just as beginners, but they're kind of reacting to that for their entire career.
Well, there's several things. So let's go with what we kind of grew up as kids: throwing a baseball, batting, whether even tennis, it's more of an overhand. But ground strokes are great, but we'll stay in the baseball realm, throwing a football. Overhand timing is different than underhand timing in the golf swing. So that's number one. Number two is there's still that belief that a lot of people have that the hip rotation creates power in the golf swing, even though that there's more research out there that disputes that, and even the research that says that may work, they even in their papers say, well, we can't, there's no direct correlation.
So there's
correlation, but there's no direct cause and effect.
Let's do a little deep dive on this because I think this is interesting. Something that I've heard you say before. Tell me the difference in timing between an overhand and an underhand motion. So baseball and stuff. I'm on a knee here. Baseball and things. We're overhand here.
Yep.
So I'm doing this. Tennis, even though it's to the side, I'm tilted and basically doing an overhand here. Backhand's a little different, but it's basically a reverse of the overhand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously cricket is dramatically overhand. Just playing catch is overhand. What would be some like playing beanbag toss? What would be some underhanded things that
we're actually going to try this? So fast pitch softball is a purely underhand motion.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I started doing some working with the women's softball team here at State, we started doing some video analysis and some motion capture with them. We've had an Olympian in the lab and looking at the arm speed that they can create. And our pitching coach here, I haven't seen it, but supposedly he can just bomb the ball, and I haven't seen it. So
in golf, you mean?
It can go all over. But he was, I think Coach Johnson was men's fast pitch Olympian type pitcher. I mean, that's the quality he is. And then we've had one of the female pitchers in the lab and looking at her motion and analyzing that. So to me, that is the sort of thing that would be phenomenal with golf. Tennis, a little bit of the top spin ground stroke would be similar, where you kind of go that low to high type of motion. But that's just kind of helping people think about draw. So that's the kind of the difficulty is there's not a lot of sports that are low to high or underhand versus what we do normally do overhand. And I'll add one other thing is when you want to throw in power and want to throw the ball further, what do? You put more of your body, you put more of that rotation into it. So then if
I think about Mike Trout like doing a crow hop and then throwing it to home plate. And then if you can just see it in regular speed, but then if you slowed it down, you see a dramatic stepping, separation, kinetic chain stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So when you apply that timing and those accelerations of those limbs and of the body segments, they just don't match up to what happens in the golf swing, and that's what gets people kind of lost or going in the wrong direction, then they'll plateau.
Okay, so you're saying when people take their overhand mechanics that they've learned from as a kid, and then they try to put that into a golf swing, that's where we see that 77% of golfers are going over the top.
Oh, exactly, exactly. You know, and when I was down in Florida, we had a bunch of MLB guys, and I mean, great hitters too. And watching them swing a golf club was just hilarious, and it was frustrating for them sometimes.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, that's when, depending on the season, their batting coach would not allow them to do it because, again, there was so much body rotation. The club could never catch up, and the ball was just slicing off the world.
Okay.
So,
So you're saying that a golf swing is more of an underhanded motion,
oh, completely,
which
completely.
okay. So yeah, because I've heard other guys on the channel said, man, I would love to get to have on my lesson tee, like you were saying, a underhand softball pitcher, because you
Yeah.
feel like that would really be okay. So what was your second point? So that was your first point: is golf is underhanded. Everything else, almost everything else you do is overhanded.
Overhanded. And
So
then I would say your information, the information that is being out there, you know, whether it's ground reaction force or hip pelvis rotation, all those other instructional elements that are just kind of, they're being misapplied. That's all it is. Ground reaction force is important. We need friction. We need horizontal friction. But ground reaction force is just what we put into the ground. It's not that it comes from the ground, because if I stand there, there is no force from the ground other than my body weight and gravity accelerating, which is keeping me on the ground. So some of that misinformation about misapplication of physics from an instructional standpoint gets people sidetracked.
yeah, it's kind of like we're seeing in the world right now. Like certain things don't exist until you measure them. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So if we look at the difference between, you know, what kinematics versus EMG versus kinetics, you know, there's muscle activation. Just when you intend to move something, there's other muscle activation prior to you even moving, whether it's through stabilization. Um, and so if you just go pick up something, your posterior side locks starts engaging prior to you actually picking anything up. So from a motor control standpoint, that doesn't show up in the video,
Do you have
but
on your yeah? Do you have on your phone that little graph that you had on one of your videos recently, where it's like nothing, 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 and then some static lines, and then it shows that's when the motion starts. I think you know what I'm talking about. If do you have
yeah,
that
you know what
somewhere?
I can do is I'll pull up my 2014 World Congress, World Scientific Congress of Golf. I think that's where I pulled that from. So I did
Yeah.
three presentations down in Australia at the World Scientific Congress of Golf. Let me see where I got that, and I can actually just share that if you want me to.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, in 2014, this is 2 years before Tony's student won the World Long Drive Championship. Tony kind of came to the forefront briefly in golf instruction because he took a minor league baseball player called Jeff Flagg, who went to Mississippi State, which is in Tony's town, and they worked together for maybe 2 or 3 months, and Jeff made it like very deep into the long drive process. And then when Jeff and him had worked for less than a year, I think, then he had, or no, when you worked for just over a year, Jeff had
Right.
won the World Long Drive Championship using this stuff that Tony's been talking about. 2 years before Jeff won that, Tony was invited to present uh, at the World Golf Congress in Australia, and that's what he's going to show us now.
Okay, so let me
Just
go
pulling
ahead
it
and
up.
I got a lot of stuff running. So let me go ahead and share a screen and let me know what we get here.
Okay.
Let's see, we want to share that.
Yeah, it says you've started sharing your screen. Okay, I see your screen.
How's that?
Good. I'm just gonna double check that I can see it. I just want to check that yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it's actually perfect.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so this is when I was we were developing the Institute of Golf, and this was actually my master's thesis project. And so, just to kind of go through this, we knew that the most efficient shots or your best shots take the least amount of effort. The ball goes the furthest. When we put more effort into it, the shots don't go as well. So, why is this happening, and what's being involved? So this is just kind of get into the.
Now, Tony, when you talk about effort, does that go for like, is that just for like mediocre golfers or even like excellent golfers? They feel like they have that feeling of, man, like I didn't really try that hard, but that one went so far.
Right, exactly. Even with when we were doing long drive stuff, when you try to put in more effort and that threw off your timing and coordination, the ball didn't go anywhere.
Okay. So
So,
so like when Jeff hit that drive that won, what was his feeling that he really like grunted and tried hard on that one, or was just smoothness, or what was the
it
feeling?
was it was smoothness. It was about just making the best swing he could possibly make to get the ball in the fairway.
Okay.
Just trusting what we've been working on, and which was a straight shot. We knew he had to aim a little bit left on the fairway because the wind was coming in from the left, but just to trust it,
Mhm.
and not try to kill it, because when the pressure was on and he was trying to force it, that's when things were going sideways.
Okay.
So, this is just so interesting. The X factors originally, some of the Myers did the paper that kind of validated X factor and says, though there's some correlation between X factor and distance. But at the end, in the conclusion, he goes, there is no direct cause and effect of pelvis rotation or pelvis speed to distance. But none of that is ever spoken about. And I've talked with some people that this was actually a marketing scheme by Golf Magazine to sell more articles. So um, let's see. This is just some of. So I'm going to get into. Quan did a really nice job in some of his research also. So what we did here was we took, LPGA player. This was Jeff, obviously, right here, because this is the year before he won, and we just used the EMG and recorded their swings using a regular. Hey, you just swing your normal swing 6-iron. Then we did the Flamingo drill.
So I'm just gonna go through this quickly, Tony. Go back to that one because that's interesting. Oh yeah.
So this is
So
yeah. So we
two.
just hit 5 shots each,
Okay. So
and then we just averaged them out, and then started looking at some EMG stuff.
so 5 shots each. It was you did 5 shots of what and 5 shots of what?
So
Just go
five
back.
shots regular stance using their methodology, however you swing, and
Mm-hmm.
then we went ahead and said, okay, let's do the Flamingo drill, which is this modified 1 foot stance.
Okay.
Where we drop the trail foot back, you're still balancing, just a narrow balance of support, and then hit 5 shots that way. So we just wanted to look at, what was distance, what was, I wasn't really worried about accuracy because I was looking at EMG. Did we see a difference in right pectoral muscle activation
Okay.
between those two swings?
Yeah.
Without telling them, hey, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. You just do it. You just swing.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was one of the assistants, and this is his regular club head speed was 96 miles an hour.
And this is
And
their right pec EMG data.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So this is obviously, we just synced it up, get the time stamped on it, and I used also a laser gate system. And we can measure out exactly where the start of the swing was, where the impact was. And so when we looked at it, and this is raw data, so this is obviously before I knew exactly what I was getting into with EMG. So this is raw data in case anyone that knows how to do EMG goes, well, why are they both positive, negative? Because you take the absolute value, blah, blah, blah. But anyhow, so we knew that, what happened there?
We still see it. Yeah.
For some reason, my screen just keeps something's jumping in. Top of the backswing, we just see it's pretty quiet, but then all of a sudden we started seeing all this pre-activation with the 1 foot drill before, and this is very similar to some of the McGill research that he's identified as some pre-impulsing before ballistic motions and punching. And this is the sort of thing that we just started seeing with my assistant at the time. And we could see, this was average club head speed and average one speed for the 1 foot drill. So not a whole lot of difference. Now he was a hockey player also, so that he easily was able to do this drill no problem at all.
This is Jeff.
This isn't Jeff. No, this was one of my assistants.
The assistant.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tim,
Yeah.
Tim Poznaniak.
Yeah.
Was,
so you're saying
great hockey player, good guy, great guy. I think he's teaching for Golf Tech now. But this, you can see for him to do this 1 foot drill was easy but it changed the timing of it. It changed the difference in muscle activation.
Now, did you, from a golf professional point of view, do you think his muscle activation was better in his 1 foot drill than it was in his regular swing?
Yeah, I do. And this is just this is kind of the picture of that ball flight. So if you take a look at this, let me pull this back up. So this was kind of his tendency with regular stance. Again, looking at the path was fine. A little bit too much than what you want. 3.5, hit a little low center in that, but offline is kind of what we were seeing in his tendency. And then when we went looking at the club data, whoops, wait for that to come up. Let's see. I guess it's not pulling out. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
This is an old file. Whoa. Yeah, let me restart it and see what's going on because it was working before.
So since we're on the flow of it, as you're restarting, so we saw that what did he do in his normal swing that was then not present in his data for the Flamingo swing?
The biggest thing, let's kind of go back. I'll go back to this data because it looks for some reason it's I don't know what's happening. It's showing up, but it's not showing up on the slide.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I don't know something. Oh, it may have just been to the drive. I have it on a portable drive. So let me just open it back up again.
Okay, guys. While Tony's getting that sorted out, I want to let you know we are going to be taking your questions. We'll save them till the end, just so that we can get through some of this swing change stuff. But this is really good stuff. So I'm looking down right now, guys, because I'm looking at questions right now. So it's really good. Yeah, awesome.
Here, I'm gonna pull this over into my drive.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, put them into the chat to below, and we'll knock those out after this. And then later on, Tony, as you're getting that set up, we are going to talk about, there's this thing, guys. If you can see this paper here, guys, I'll just move Tony to the side for a second. So I've been using a net a lot and trying to change something in my swing. And Tony did a review and found this really interesting article about reduced frequency of knowledge of results will actually enhance motor skill learning during a very and then if you go deeper in the article, you learn that it's very at a very specific time of learning. So when you're first trying to acquire a little bit different or a little bit new of a skill, you actually want less information about the knowledge of result, which is almost exactly what you're getting when you're hitting into a net. And we hear so much, and we'll talk about this with Tony after we go through his study, but you think about so many good golfers that have come from Scandinavian countries where they're only going into a net for 7 or 8 months. Yeah, 6, yeah, really, 6 to 8
Yeah.
months, a year. They're only hitting into a net, and they're so I know that a lot of times that when I've tried to do a swing change, just because I hate hitting it left so much, a lot of range sessions have been kind of thwarted by seeing the ball flight, and you kind of quit on something pretty quick because you're just like, I'm not playing on the golf course like that. Whereas if you had just stuck through it for a little while, maybe the lefts would have gone away um, on its own. All right, did you get that going, Tony?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
good.
I'm good. I'll go share it up
So
and
we'll come back to
do
that.
this.
Okay, so we're talking with Tony about this is the presentation he gave at the 2013 or 2014 Science
14, yeah.
yeah Science World Conference in
Yeah,
Australia.
so this is what we saw. I just saw some pre-activation prior to top of the backswing. And this is the first time I really kind of dove, went this deep into it and looking at it. So all the golfers were right-handed. So um, this was like, okay, this was interesting. This was a typical shot pattern. Had ball going left a little bit too much, and this is just that snapshot. Hit still on the toe.
Yeah.
What was interesting is loft, dynamic loft was greater. Um,
What club was this, Tony?
I want to say this is probably a 6 iron.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so this is when Foresight first came out using their GC2 stuff. Um, so path actually improved for him. He was at 3.5 before, down to 3. Angle of attack is only 0.8 down. So, for him it was a straighter shot. Obviously doesn't go as far, and smash factor was off. But in some of that,
So he
you lose
had
energy, and the
yeah.
ball's not going to go offline as much sometimes. But we were
So
just looking at club head speed.
right. So between the his regular shot and the 1 foot shot, like what you're calling the Flamingo drill, a lot of things, the path, the straightness, and things like that were better. It seems like really the only thing that was like obviously worse was he just didn't have good control, like sweet spot control, like that impact location was
Yeah, and
starting to
this
get
is a
off.
snapshot.
Okay.
So yeah, so that was the biggest thing is, because I think that's where the challenge is for a lot of people is just being able to maintain balance. But when you look at club head speed, there wasn't a whole lot of decrease in on that. And I'm trying to remember all of the studies or all the results of that.
Okay.
And but I want to say that there wasn't a whole lot of difference when you averaged them out
And
between
this
the five
wasn't
shots.
and this wasn't particular to this one golfer. I know you've done this with a lot of people. Like, is that
Yeah.
what in general is the loss of speed when percentage wise when somebody goes from regular stance to for a really good player from regular stance to 1 foot stance?
Yeah, the biggest change has been 20%, but usually it's a 10-15% change. That's about it. Which is, I mean, that's a good club or so, but when you look at it, the quality of contact is generally better. And again, the effort. And here's our 10% range right here. So this was LPGA mini tour player. She was a LPGA teacher. And again,
What is the pink line, Tony?
pink, that is her pec major muscles. So when we just moved it around,
And
so it's the same muscles what
blue
we were
line?
comparing before. It just the colors swapped on it when I was doing, yeah.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can read here on the left hand side. I don't know if you can see it
Oh,
on
I
the screen,
see.
but left
Yeah.
deltoid and right pec. So it just flip flop colors when I was doing the
Oh, gotcha.
analysis.
So her same thing. It's
Yep,
activating earlier in the Flamingo drill.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So um, yeah, this is actually, let's see if this will play.
Okay, so here's regular.
So good player.
Hmm.
So just from a coordination standpoint, it was, generally what we see is it just gets a little bit tighter. Oh, here we go. We got them synced up. A little bit better. So yeah, it was interesting. And this just get into the difference between a ballistic motor program versus, let's say, which is a feed forward type program versus a feedback type program. And this is the biggest things that we see is when we look at some of this activation before there's actually force. And that's the thing that is difficult to kind of teach people or difficult to present because you can't see it. You can't see this muscle activation before it happens. But that's the difference between feel wise when things feel coordinated versus things feel disjointed.
Okay, so when we see that LPGA teacher, I'll just move this for a second. When we see that LPGA teacher making and with a flamingo drill with a 1 foot stance, even though the club is still, maybe the hands are still going backwards, she's having force that would be driving the club forwards happening already.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So kind of
So if
just
somebody would say to you, like, did like a swing analysis of her, they would see, like, look, she's not throwing the club from the top, she's not moving it with her arms, it's staying still. But you're saying there's forces at work underneath that. So yeah, just kind of
yeah.
analyze this for us of what's happening here.
So so when you take a look at it, let's get them up to the top and take a look. So there's a couple things you can see. She does get a little bit longer swing with normal stance, which is obviously common. It gives her a great range of motion. So in both of these, we're going to see the lower body. There's the lower body going,
Hmm.
initially, and even here we see the lower body going. But if you look at it, the coordination between the lower and upper body are completely different. Where she has to kind of reestablish coordination right there, and you can see she starts out running that versus things are much more coordinated down. So when we get down to, we'll say, left arm parallel to the ground, you know, she's her she's in a much better position to start delivering the club. There's a lot more kind of, even though maybe people would like this to see this exaggerated clap, that's actually more consistent because at the bottom you're going to see a lot more hand activation. Now the body's going to stop. Body's stopped for her right there,
Yeah.
and she's still right there is where kind of the body posts up. So you can just see her hands are much more getting ready for impact. Here, this has got to stop in order for the hands and club to kind of catch up. And there's the flip to catch up to get everything squared up.
Yeah, the body stops and the club head keeps going. Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
and there you,
everyone feels,
yeah.
oh, I'm real handsy and I must be using my hands. Like, how can I use my arms when I feel real handsy? But it's really a reaction to having the body stop up and you get the club. So when you look at these two positions, and I'll move this one back just right about there. I mean, it's a much stronger position. You can actually see the 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 device right here. This is the Biopac EMG is much more to the side versus it's getting on top. So she's already getting into forearm rotation. Uh, and actually, well, in this case, it'd be bicep rotation, upper arm humerus rotation, but that's going to tie in right there. So she has to get into this arm rotation, which now loses drive and loses momentum versus this. So,
Okay. So Tony, how do you get a player to activate their arms more in transition without just getting totally dead in the lower body? Like, how do how do you give the, or go on with your presentation, actually. We'll
yeah,
get to
no, I
my
was
part.
just seeing if there's
Yeah.
something here, anything else here. Oh, this actually was, this, I'll probably get in trouble for playing this.
No, you'll be right. Just tell us what he's saying because the volume's low.
Okay.
Here's Louis
So,
Oosthuizen.
So one of the things that he's talking about is right here. This is Louis Oosthuizen, and it's talking about guys want to go so hard with their bodies, and you can see it that it just the arms are lagging, dragging behind. They can't catch up. So he's talking about here with this interview is actually how he uses his right arm more to start the downswing. Right here uses the arms more, and then using the body as support, and then using the body at the bottom of the swing. So this was just kind of obviously a very good player, Open champion,
Mm-hmm.
great player, talking about the same sort of thing that I teach, you know, which um, just shows you we've never met, never talked with him about it. That's a feeling he has
Right.
in order to hit better shots.
Yeah, and when I've seen people who really think that the swing is from the ground up and really like a lot of lower body lead and stuff, and when I see them like explain your idea or other or athletic motion golf or other people that talk about using the arms in transition, they kind of strawman it a little bit because they do all this body rotation as the arms going first when really the arms. So what's the difference between, because Louis kind of talked about it there, what's the difference between going with that intention of your right pec and your arms going in transition rather than like trunk spin?
Um, so it's more of a feeling than it's just that's the biggest thing is recognizing when you hit your best shots and just think about that for a moment. I don't People that I've never met, when you hit your best shots, how much effort does that take? Very little at all. Okay, that's universal. I've been to Australia, talked with people from Japan, so on both sides of the world, this is everyone feels the same thing. So when we start putting into it, that's the reason why the Flamingo drill, feet together drill, different drills to start activating that awareness. It is not even so much of conscious thought, it's just understanding, hey, this is the feel I have in order to hit a good shot. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the coordination between the outside acceleration versus the inside.
Okay.
So you don't have to overcomplicate this at all.
Okay, so for people watching at home, how can they, one, diagnose if they're uh, using too much lower body to drive their swing and it's maybe sabotaging themselves? And two, then what's a good place for them to start to try to coordinate the upper and lower more effectively in transition, especially
I
when they can't really hit balls?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
they
think
can
the
swing, yeah.
biggest thing that I see is when you feel that your swing takes a lot of work and the ball doesn't go where you want. That's a sure sign saying your body's overactive at the wrong time. We want the body to be very active, but it's through impact, not so much in transition. I originally saw this back. Geez, Hale Irwin. This goes back.
Tony, stop sharing your screen if you
Okay,
can, just so
yeah,
we can see you.
there we go. So this goes back to this is the first time I saw it was Hale Irwin was hitting balls on the range, feet together, and this was kind of this goes back. Let's see this. Oof,
Like
maybe
senior tour,
seven,
or like he's like,
late eight,
oh, so
late
he was on the
70s,
tour
early
tour then,
80s.
yeah.
And he was hitting balls feet together on the range. So it's one of those that's the first time I ever saw it. But again, I was following what all the instructors were saying, and lower body drive with the legs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but here, one of the best players in the world at the time, wasn't doing it that way. So
So how do you get your players to, if they are getting more in sync with the arms and they're having good results? How do you know they've gone too far and they've frozen the body where they're making a good transition, but it feels like they just get locked up kind of at the ball?
that's well, two things. One, if they start hitting behind it a little bit, that'll be the first indicator. And if the ball starts hooking too much,
Mm-hmm.
those would be, so if we take a slice and all of a sudden he starts hooking the ball, I love that because now we can just start adding in the body rotation a little bit sooner and making sure the pivot is done properly.
Okay, great. Okay, let's move on to this, Tony, and I'm going to pull this onto the Zoom so you can see it. Or actually, you know what it is, so I'll just read it because I don't want to go through that. Okay, so we were talking about making a swing change during this time, Tony, and you looked up some research and I was wondering like because I was feeling as I was making this very big change for me, I was feeling that the progress I was making felt anyway like greater progress than I had made on this issue ever before. And all I was doing was because there was no golf courses open here at all. So I was only hitting into a net. So and I was feeling like I was making good progress on that. When you did a kind of a sweep of all the different research papers, what have you seen as far as like the effect of just hitting into a net and not having that feedback?
I would say overall to play safe, if you don't have some sort of guidance, not what they call knowledge of results. Um, and again, it doesn't have to always be ball flight. Knowledge of results can come from internal, it can be external. So at some point, you can get into bad habits. So you do have to be careful with that. But at the same time, if you're constantly thinking and thinking and thinking, from a knowledge of performance. So knowledge of performance is like, okay, we're making a swing change. I want to go through all these different positions and things like that. That's the balance. And it's kind of depending on, we have to go back, depending on where you're at and what your needs are, that determines what you need to focus in on. Generally, like if I want people to start picking up club head speed, I love the idea that they don't know where the ball goes because they're just working on trying to go faster.
Right.
So we'll use different drills to go faster. So you kind of have to take a look and say, okay, what are your goals? And then build up the plan around that. So there's just not a conclusive best way that everybody fits in there. But you're going to see that if you want to, if you're thinking too much, yes, let's just free things up, stop thinking, let's go. But if we're trying to get rid of a habit, you do need some knowledge of performance and then tying that into knowledge of results and tying it into a feeling. So this way you can start reproducing those.
Right. Okay, let me see. I'm got the wrong thing going here. It's my wife and I at a party. We don't need that. Hold on. Hold on. I'm trying to pull up something. Oh, I'll do my screen share on Zoom. Okay, so if I go, so I'm gonna share, and I'm going to. Let me share something different. Hold on a second, Tony. All right, so now we're going to do a little before and after and talk about what I'm working on, guys, and how we've kind of tackled this. And it's been... Let me find where that's that. If I didn't get rid of it. We did that. Great. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You talking about some of the V1 stuff we've been doing?
Nah, I have a specific video. I'll show you.
Okay.
I'll bring it up right now. So I'm just pulling up this swing I had. Zoom. Oh, whoops. Oh, there I am. Sure. I want to go to. That's okay. Now you know what we'll do because this will work out better. So let's go. All right. Do you see my desktop there, Tony?
Got it.
All right. Good. So this should be working out okay, but we're gonna find out. Where is my? Right here. Okay, so what I've been working on, Tony, and that I've seen in recent times, I've been hold on, pause that. Good. In recent times, I've been not working on my swing very much, and before all this stuff started, and I developed like an old habit that I had that I never really addressed had started to get like extremely bad. So here in this swing, we can see my head, and this is the reason I wanted to pull this one up. My head is perfectly in line with that. Hold on. Yeah, my head is perfectly in line with that horizon. You see that?
Yeah, got it.
All right. So what's going on here, Tony? As I'm kind of looking at this shot. Okay, so the club is starting back. And the kind of issues here is takeaway notwithstanding right now, but you can see already by the time the club gets to what people are calling the second position, so P2 here. I've already gone up 2 inches,
Yeah.
and then as we go to 3 here, now I'm up a total of maybe 4, and when I get to the top of my swing here, now I'm up from the beginning probably a total of 5 or 6 inches from there. And the shoulders are also very flat compared to, like, we just saw Louis Oosthuizen. So which is a guy that's known as one of the best swings. If we go to somebody who's more my build, like would be like a Charles Schwartzel, that would be like, you just wouldn't see that with a lot of players. And then going back down, you can see this was actually, I picked out a really good shot. I hit this like 8 feet from the flag. It was like 100. Oh, that's the 150-yard stake there. So because I wanted to do an apples to apples thing, you can see I start to make some compensations here, and then by impact I'm back down basically where I was when I started. So as an instructor, just talk about the issues that happen when somebody has that kind of pattern, Tony.
Well, the inconsistency is what can end up happening, and that's the challenge. Is like that shot you get back perfect, so there's not an issue. But what happens if it happens too soon, or if it happens too late? Now all of a sudden you either go hit behind it, or now you top it, and now depending on what you think the cause is, that can then lead you into some really disastrous things. So
also talk about, like, because I've noticed that in driver, like, I think that's a big power sap too, to come up and then have to go down through impact. Talk about how that could be connected to like a loss of power as well.
Well, I think what it is the difficulty is how well you can time up that arc. There's a certain distance from the ball that you have to create speed from. So we want to create that wide arc so we can be more efficient, but at the same time have greater angular velocity with that. So when you start narrowing things up and you start coming down, the question is then do the hands get pulled in because everything's got working down. And so now all of a sudden our radius is narrower, and we're going to lose velocity right there. So
right.
That's the biggest thing, is if we can keep it wide and keep you more consistent, you can actually go faster because you're taking a lot of your energy then and just moving your body back down in order to sync up your arm swing.
Okay. So then during like the whole shutdown and stuff, golf teachers have been putting up just like so much stuff recently. It's been kind of cool actually, because there's been a great sense of collaboration and the first 2 weeks, but now we're starting to see some arguments and some things. But so we saw the level there. So this is me working, because we talked about the study of getting better into a net. So this is me working into. Let me get this up here. Okay. Okay, so you can see this shuttling through, Tony?
Not yet.
Is it moving?
I'm not seeing anything on my side.
Oh, you don't see it on your side. Oh, that's right. I got to share it with you. Hold on. I do have to share it with you. There you go. Okay, so now you should see it, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you guys didn't see the before swing, you might have, because I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how this is working with the broadcasting software they have. But in the before swing, we saw the head here. If I put the head, let's see, if I go to the start. Oh, actually, this one is a boomerang, because I thought it showed it the best.
Yeah.
So Tony, we can see here in the kind of the unloading phase to through the ball. We can see how before I was kind of had to react in a big I'd be like really have to dip through it and then not do any power. So just as I'm shuttling through, give us just your analysis of what's going on here.
There's a couple things, and we were working on this, and I think what also would be good, jump in there too with your comment about the feelings you have. But when we worked on maintaining that posture in the backswing, what happened to your backswing and what did it feel like to you? So I'd like for you to let people know what you felt when we started working on that.
Yeah, one of the main things that got me going on this first was there is a guy, that got me like thinking that this might be my quarantine project was there's a guy who's a fan of the channel, also has his own YouTube channel called Milo Lines, who does golfletics. Anyway, so he was talking about the connection between the shoulders coming flat and that kind of making me stand up.
Right.
So that got me on to a thing about like, okay, well maybe that would be like an avenue to be like, let me work on this. Then when Tony and I were talking, if I just move this over so people can see me, and let me stop sharing this for a second so Tony can see me too. So when Tony and I were talking, when I was here, yeah. So okay. So when I would come flat, the flat and up, I saw that the flat and the up were really closely connected in a way that I didn't really ever realize before. And also I saw that in transition, when I'm here, if I went backwards with my hips and stuff, I saw that this is not a very good view. Let me move this back. There you go, everybody. And let's move this guy down here. And bring this to the top. Yeah, just so everybody can see me as well as you can, Tony. Okay, yeah. So when I was here, if I noticed too that if me falling backwards, then the hips, everything would come very flat. So I go here and I go backwards and everything would be flat, and I was no longer on any kind of plane towards the ball. And then, so I'd have to lower everything like this and then get extremely shallow on the way down, like below my right forearm, and kind of flip to the ball. And and it was all kind of a chain reaction from that P2 position when I had already gone up so much. So I was just getting behind the 8 ball right off the bat. So that was my feeling of keeping the shoulders pointed at the ball and then not falling backwards, but kind of covering the ball with both shoulders and then repointing the shoulders again, but always staying in the A posture was really important that you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's critical because when you jump back to your swing, pull your swing back up if you can. It's not too much trouble. That boomerang one.
Yeah.
Because that transition was just gorgeous, and that's probably the thing that is very challenging for golfers is
do you see it now, Tony?
Yeah, it's perfect. So if we look at it, if you get it up to the top and we were to draw a line from your hands back down to the ball,
hold on, just a second, because I gotta do it again on the broadcaster.
Okay.
So IMG. Oh. That's that. That should be this one. Ah, there it is. Hiding in the corner. Okay, I'm going to shuttle through this. Yeah, so here we go. So this is a boomerang. I'm just going to let this boomerang play.
Yeah. You can just see how consistent your posture is in transition. And those arms are working out down on that angle. And that's probably the biggest thing is for better golfers. I would say a lot of, two things I see. Better golfers, the arms work too much downward or vertically. And now the club gets behind them. They have to flip it at the bottom. Or we see upper body rotation and pelvis rotation too fast relative to the arm speed, and now things get shifted out. So you to be able to work on that incline plane, working it back towards the camera, out and down, is the big challenge in order to hit that ball dead straight.
Yeah, I know it's not. People will not like the comparison, but the feeling that I have the most is the Tiger 2019 swing. So kind of after the Tiger rebuild, he did a lot more where he wasn't trying to, like he was in more of that A position here, and he wasn't trying to stay in his posture like way after impact, getting this kind of curved look, to his spine. But he's really, he's there and he's down into the ground, he's back up, and then as soon as the ball's gone, he's standing right up in I don't think just an effort to protect his back. I think a couple things. You know, he actually has a totally fused part of his spine now, where he might not even be able
Yeah.
to do that anymore. But also too, like I think that's that right side getting through a lot more aggressively than when he was kind of in more of that like that slinger finish.
Right. Yeah. And if you look at all the pelvis numbers, for tour players, you see the pelvis actually starting to straighten up, and it gets pivoted, or what I call cam action, because it's working off that lead leg. So it's not a pure rotation. We're not rotating around the center of our torso, but it's pivoting and coming up. So, the numbers are there showing pelvis angles is flattening through impact. No one is staying here through impact. And actually, some of the gears numbers too, and AMG will talk about this, is how much the upper body rotation through the ball is really one of the big differences I've seen between in distance between a tour player and, let's say, the average golfer.
So talk about that, because this is something you talked about. I already can't remember. When was the last time we were together? We did a school or something together. You were talking about
Was
this a lot.
that's a couple of years
Oh,
ago?
no, yeah,
I think.
Thackerville. You were talking
Yeah,
about
Thacker.
in
Yeah, yeah,
Oklahoma exactly a year ago, and so this is something you were talking a lot about, how when you were on the gear system that they had there at the time, this the torso rotation in your swing compared to Billy Horschel's swing, which was the gears one that you had up. What
yeah.
were the differences that So you hadn't been playing very much golf at that point, and Billy's a great golfer. So what were the differences you were seeing between your swing and Billy Horschel's swing, which I think would be a similar difference that you would see between my swing in that video that I did with Eric Mike Tree, the pro, and this kind of Tiger 2019 style swing that I'm doing now.
Yeah. So when you take a look at it, it was really upper body rotation, how that actually was faster than pelvis rotation. And I'm trying to remember the graph, but the upper body rotation was the biggest thing. Exactly. So,
For
when
everybody
we,
else, it goes pretty good, but then it like stops here. And for Billy,
but
it was going
yeah,
all the way through.
all the way through. So it does slow down because it gets to impact, but it keeps going through. And that was the biggest difference that we saw with gears is when I did it, because I did it with the Flamingo drill, regular stance, I would conk out at the bottom. And part of that, whether that was just lack of practice, lack of whatever, it was just to get the club face squared up. It was more of just whatever I had to do to make it work. Where these guys were getting through the ball. And when you start looking at Koepka and Woods, all these guys get through the ball. That to me is the biggest difference between the average golfer. I wouldn't say the only thing, but that's another big thing: transition and through the ball. So extra rotation through the ball is more important than early rotation and transition.
Well, I think, Tony, it does have something to do with a psychological squaring in the face that's freezing you, or some kind of psychological thing, because I don't think we didn't do this when we were on gears, but we were talking about it when we were there when I broke Bill's club, remember? And if you had done that but had just say taken a practice swing where you were only the gears could only capture when a ball was actually being hit
Yeah,
the way he had it
yeah,
set up, but I think you would have seen, because we've seen some slow-mos with it, when good players, it doesn't happen as much with bad players, but when good players take only a practice swing and like a swipe of the ground, we see them really get through in the practice swing. And when the ball's there, and it might be because they're waiting to like match up the face or something,
yeah.
there's some kind of unconscious freezing that's happening there. So there might be something to do with that. If you guys go to bebettergolf.net/premium, you'll see the stuff that I've done with Tony on building your reactionary golf swing and reactionary golf get masterclass, and then also I talk about this more in this thing called Beyond Great Impact. But yeah, talk about like the effects, because that's what you talked about in transition, was the effects of your mentality, like what you're gonna like intend to do, and then
Yeah.
also the effect of your mentality to and through impact.
So what ends up happening is if I get too quick with my upper body or lower body in transition, it's got to stop. So there's no way for it to rotate at the bottom, because if it did, the club would never get down, face would be wide open, or completely top the ball. So that is just kind of the athletic reaction that we have, and everyone, there's the handstand. And I
So
think we've
if you
been
get too quick with your body rotation in transition,
correct.
it's got to stop.
Yeah. So
Either
then it
either
has
your
to stop
trunk or
because in
your
order I
thoracic.
can then
Yeah.
speed up my hands and arm to get back to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's what any good player would do. You know, and what ends up happening is with the slicer is they're late to make that happen. So the club's already shifted out and the face is open. They can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, better players will also slide a little bit and then trap it with their hands and flip it with their hands because, again, those are the missed timings.
Right.
And so the biggest thing is, can we get the hands back in front of us?
Yeah.
On the way down.
Yes, so many times we
Yes.
see the great players at impact, their hands are ahead of where their zipper would be or off their left leg at impact. And it's almost like, you know, there's the funneling between like backswings go all the way from Jim Furyk to Raymond Floyd, right? But then P6, which is the last parallel before impact, that's pretty tight about as far as variation, like not very much. And then impact is extremely tight of the different things people do. We did a lot of this stuff with Birdie from DST when he came from England. Almost everybody, basically everybody, is leading, the hands are leading the club through impact. So you're saying, and I've heard you say this before, but talk about how your impact is determined by the quality and the quantity of your transition.
So yeah, it's how we start that transition really determines how well impact is. And if the arms are late, the impact's going to be poor. So it's that feeling of getting that club back down in front of us, then almost the body chasing it through. Those are sensations. Those are some verbiage that I've had people to explain it. You know, let the right side go through. It's kind of a punching motion, different things like that. I mean, and that's tour players have said those things to me. So the biggest thing is, and that's the hardest thing, when we look at that lead leg, it's actually in an eccentric kind of contraction. So it's supporting the motion. It's not actively rotating. The right side's rotating through, but that left leg has to be supportive in order for us to rotate through. Okay. And that's something that we need to keep working on is getting that good rotation with that lower body support.
Yeah, and that's something that I need to keep working on as well as into the net. So you're saying a lot of people think of the lower body and speed as a cause and effect thing as far as okay, I stomped hard with my leg and then somewhere up the chain that results in a great speed of the arms. But you're saying no, it's more of a coupling where I don't have anything here, or this pencil. So where the lower body would be pushing this way as the upper body's going. It's a same time coupling rather than a cause and effect.
Correct, exactly. I think if you think about it, if you're going to go kick a soccer ball with the kids, or kick a football, throw a ball, whether it's overhand or underhand, doesn't matter. If you don't have support on that lead leg, how well are you going to kick, throw, and everything else? You're not. If there's slippage, if there's lack of friction there, and that hip then is moving and the legs moving, and you can get away with it. So like volleyball players, they're able to create a lot of arm speed and they're not on the ground. Mm-hmm. So, and we've seen that with the long drive guys. They're not trying to jump, but they're off the ground when they're going through. So you can use muscle activation as your braking motion in order to get distal limb acceleration.
Yeah, I know you talk a lot about the right arm being so important in the golf swing and this whole unit, from here and through there. One thing I was doing when I was hitting the wall the other day, and I was thinking about throwing, is, let me move this for you guys, Tony. So, Tony, when I go to hit something hard, right? I had a shoe in my hand, I think. Because I got like dog crap in the bottom of my shoe, so I was hitting on a wall, And as usual, I'm thinking about the golf swing and everything I'm doing. But so I noticed that when I do that, I always throw this arm, the lead arm, out of the way, and then whack it with there, like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, when I pitch, you gotta get that spread look here, and the lead arm kind of takes you this way. And it really acts as an amazing counterbalance to
Yeah.
it's kind of throwing it out this way. It's like that's why almost like you throw better with a glove on your left hand because you kind of there's a weight in that glove and you throw it. So in the golf swing though, it's a little weird and where your hands are together, so you don't really have anything. You can't take one hand off and just kind of sling it like if you were about to mace somebody in the Dark Ages. So
Well,
what?
you
How do you
actually
get
can a
this
little bit.
counteracting
Yeah.
action?
So so here's how it is. So if we look at and let's see if maybe I'll stand up. Maybe that will see if we can do this. If I do so we built the gym at home, and I just noticed all of a sudden my left lat is stronger than my right lat. And so when we start looking at it, and some of the gears was talking about this too, about how this you get this left lat pull
Mm-hmm.
along with this right side, which is then the coupling action like you're talking about.
Okay.
So it is we get this little bit of this kind of this arm working back down this way as this is working out. So we do get that coupling effect of opposite motions in order to do that. So that's almost a subconscious thing, but there is a kind of a reconnection like you're doing throwing, just right there of that left lat kicking in along with the right pec.
Okay.
Because remember, I only did the right pec because that, but when we look at a lot of the other EMG studies,
Yeah.
they show that the pecs and the lats are different times, but that left lat is for right-handed golfers is critical.
Okay, great. Okay, guys, let's go through and knock out some of your questions. If you have any, put them below. We have about 10 more minutes with Tony here. Let's see. All right. On the downswing, should you feel the arms falling down or more throwing the club head out to the ball? So the two things that we hear a lot about, the arms falling down, right? So there's kind of a baked in thing there is one is like, are you doing it or are you just letting them fall? So that'd be kind of the first thing. Or should you feel like we've heard other people say where like you're throwing the entire club out and then reacting to that, in a Jim Flick kind of way.
Right. I would say overall, definitely the arms just falling is not going to work because there's no activation there. It's we don't want anything vertical in the golf swing because it works on an inclined plane. So that's the trouble with that. The other thing is to throw the club head out there. I'm not throwing the club head at the ball. I'm actually getting my arm swing to go past or through the ball. And that ties into what we see with the better players is that upper body rotation. So by the time we are aware of impact, that ball's 30, 40 yards down the range. So we got to feel like really impact is beyond where the ball is. Impact of, I always talk about, for me right now, when I'm starting to hit my best shots, I feel like impact is my hands are about even with my waist after impact. I feel that it's out here in front of me somewhere towards the target. Those are my best shots. I don't get stuck at the bottom anymore.
Okay.
Not every time, but.
So to think that together is, first of all, and this is the problem that I had when people, and this is only my understanding of it, which is probably like, I always hate when people say they don't like one thing or another, and then the reason that they don't like it is something totally that they're not saying, which is probably what this is. But from my understanding of when I've heard people talk about gravity golf, is you go here and it's kind of a falling before you kind of catch it again and you go through it. And you're saying in the good players, there's actual active, there's stuff happening. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
no,
moving the arms.
Okay, it's
you're not going to feel it. Most of the tour players that I've worked with in the past, that skill's already been developed. So they're not consciously thinking about it, but they are very aware of what the hands and arms are doing through impact. I can tell you that because that's the club face.
Okay. And then the second part, because I think part of it is you feel like you don't have enough time to get 115 miles an hour club head speed between here and the ball. So you're doing so much that you're unconsciously like doing so much you can to get it there. But why, if you try to get it there quick rather than waiting till like beyond impact, if you wait till beyond impact, you'll get more speed at the bottom. Why is that? You were just talking about that, but why do you think that is?
Well, yeah, so it creates a little bit wider radius on the way down. And so when we look at angular velocity, the wider radius I have, longer radius I have, the more velocity I can create. So if I go this way and snap my body, now my hands get in close and now they fire straight down, poor angle of attack. By getting the arms to accelerate this way, a little bit wider on the way down, now the arms are back in front of me because they're working on an incline, so it's a matter of down and out, but it never goes pure out.
Mm-hmm.
It goes down and out. Now it's in front of me, and now I'm actually having that release in front of me this way, so that now I'm rotating through the shot upper body wise. I can just sit here in the chair and let my arms swing through, and I can feel my chest. And something like this is a great drill. I think for golfers right now, just sitting in a chair to feel that.
Yeah. And is that just educating your hands as far as where the path of them have to go? Because the guy was talking about club head straight to the ball. Well, that would probably be too much over, right?
Yeah,
so it does have to have, because the plane is down on club level, it does have to have some down into it and then out. Yeah, so it's like kind of like if you're standing on the roof of a house, but you would have to get down to the level of the house and then out.
Yeah, and it's a balance. Everyone's feeling can be different. That's the reason why I started out with like sand wedge shots and working on trying to get as shallow as I could, trying to take no divot at all, is with that sand wedge in order to help that transition for me. So that was just a feeling I could get wide and get the arms back in front of me and through, and that just to me freed things up.
Yeah, that wideness is crucial. We were talking about that on our Tony and I've been trying to be in this process like a lot more regular with how many golf lessons I'm taking. So I'm hoping to get up to like 2-3 times a week. Okay, so A2 Fitness, a guy that comments on the channel for years, so really often, is asking, love your channel. What is Tony's thoughts on left knee movement in the backswing? Should it move sideways towards your back foot or move towards the ball? So I guess we said like Nicklaus and like a lot of the classic swingers would have that left knee come well behind the ball and then kind of reposition. And then other guys more modernly, like a Jason Day, would look more like they're on a horse the entire time. So what is your thought about the left knee?
I would say that has to happen, meaning and I remember looking at the hip flexors using what they call kind of the front butt in a sense, is we need that left knee or lead leg to kind of separate from that right hip joint for right-handed golfers. Mm-hmm. So that knee has to be supportive in order for us to then to react. So if I, like Nicklaus, maybe came in and then reset it, he created the same thing that the Jason Day that you're talking about, which is a little bit more stable. But I do like the idea that the knee works more towards the ball and slightly behind it versus going lateral. Because again, it's just more timing involved.
Right.
It's just too many moving pieces for the time you have to practice. If you're Jack Nicklaus, who that's what his life was at the time, yeah, then you could retrain that.
Okay, great. And let's see. Okay, Tony, so there's a question here that it's our final question. Because people always ask this, and I think it's a goof, but I think you can kind of learn something, especially as you're getting into competition, about focused indifference and when trying becomes trying too hard, and what the competition wise, like where your mindset should be. Here they're talking about this guy doesn't understand when a lot of people say when they drink they start playing better golf, and other people say, and this guy's exact question is, he shoots in the 70s and 80s sober, but it's a guaranteed 90s when he drinks. Should I quit drinking while I play? Well, obviously, if you care about your score, you should. But we have heard a lot. We have heard before is like, oh yeah, when I either drink, I start playing better, a lot of times people say like, oh, like I'm ready for the PGA Tour on my second shot. You know, like if you hit one and then you drop and then you hit that like breakfast ball again, it's like it's always great. So talk about like where is the balanced mindset of focus and effort for like trying to shoot a good score.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is outcome. Everyone gets outcome based too much. You know, I got to hit a good shot, or this. Yeah, I need to do this. Well, now we're kind of away from what we can control. And so then the brain ends up getting into kind of a fight or flight type of mode, and it's just looking for the easiest solution possible, which is probably going to be more of your poorer habits. Um, and so when we kind of take those outcomes away, now all of a sudden the person can just go relax and make the best swing possible. There's the second ball. So a lot of it is having the idea that every shot you hit is perfect. If the ball didn't go where you wanted to, that means that club got delivered at the wrong angle. So work on that. But every swing that you make was executed perfectly from a neuromotor control of how the system works. You just have to change the system if you want to do that. So trying to look at what I call an absolute value of a shot. Don't worry about the outcome. I'm trying to create the shot. What do I need to do to create this? This gets a little bit of the situational awareness, which I can share that with you. That was the other presentation I did at the World Scientific Congress ago, is using situational awareness to frame your mind to have you focus in on the process of creating a shot and really not worrying about the outcome, because you know you can't control the outcome. You can't control once you hit the ball, it's gone.
Right.
The hits are, you know.
Well,
So mindset's the biggest thing you got to change on that.
yeah, there's been another instructor, a guy who really has some radical and very awesome teaching methods. You know, he teaches. I was telling you about him. He teaches with no explicit instruction. So
Yeah.
so he'll just you know say like start like he'll tell you nothing like body wise to do. He'll just like have you start like, okay, swing towards this circle, now swing towards that circle, like you know throw these hacky sacks around and then like anyway. So one of the things he was saying was that I was discussing, not arguing, but discussing with him, was he was saying like, yeah, the reason that golfers hit so many bad shots is because they're too fixated on the outcome. And I was saying to him, and I'll say the same thing to you, I was like, well, there's nothing I do in my life that I'm not fixated on the outcome. If I walk and I reach out to grab a doorknob, and if I missed it by 3 inches, I'd be like, oh, that's weird. But then if like half an hour later, I went to go lift my foot up and step up some stairs and I missed it by a couple inches, you know, I was expecting to step on the stair and I didn't. I've done two weird things in a half hour. I'd be going like to the doctor tomorrow to see like, okay, what's wrong with my brain? I can't do the things that I want to do. So when I put that in a golf sense, it's like, okay, there's the hole. It's 150 yards away. I want to take this club and whack that ball near the flag. In my mind, it feels like, all right, let's do that. And then when I try to do that and the ball pulls 30 yards, that's the disconnect between what I was trying to do and what happened. And that, I think, is why, you know, why I can understand why golfers would say, get very hooked on the outcome. It's like, well, everything else in my life, you know, you expect something to happen.
Right.
How is golf
So
different?
so when we look at, so outcome has to be understood as saying, um, I expect to make this putt. Let's simplify it down to a 5 foot putt, something that should be relatively easy regardless of skill level. 5 foot putt. This, oh, that's almost a gimme birdie or whatever. How many times have we missed that? Because what ends up happening is we lose when we focus what there is an outcome always to it. Yeah, I need it. I want to make this putt. Okay, what do I have to do to make this putt? If I give myself specific instructions of what I need to do, which is can be awareness, it doesn't always have to be external, meaning I need to do, and that's the balance, because people will end up saying I need to do this. Now, what we're talking about is having the sense of knowing, okay, I'm gathering all my information. Okay, which way is the putt breaking? Is it uphill, downhill, right to left, left to right? Gathering in the information and then knowing what I need to execute to make that happen. That's focusing in on the process. That's playing one shot at a time. What we're talking about is when you get focused on the outcome, I need to make this putt. Okay. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, you don't think about that. You're just trying to make the putt. So all of a sudden you're just, let me just get over and done with. There is no plan or procedure on how to make the putt. Now you can go too far by saying, okay, what are the things I need to do to make the putt? Well, I need to go ahead and pull my hands back at 3.4 meters per second, then accelerate. Now all of a sudden that's not the process either. So there's the balance between too little information, I'm focused on outcome, too much information. It's about focusing on the process to make that shot happen because you've practiced it 100,000 times or whatever.
Okay. So for your players, and I'm one of them, what do you think is a good thing? Because I always wonder this, like inside in your mind when you're in a tournament, because a lot of times if you'll hear somebody say like, oh, just don't think about anything. Well, the ball can, I mean, you can really hit the ball anywhere if you have zero thoughts. So what is a good thing to occupy your mind with? Are you like, is that when you're really digging in deep to a pre-shot routine, or what do you think should be in the mind during execution?
There's a knowing. The best golf is knowing that and this is where it can get a little tricky because I've had in talking with players, tour players, they've said, okay, I have one or two keys, and when I do this through impact or whatever it may be, that shot's exactly the way I want it to get pulled off. There's that feeling, there's the result. But that's exactly what we're talking about is they're focused in on the process. They're not worried about the outcome. So emotion is a gap between or the expectation and the result. Now I get emotionally tied to it. Well, they don't have that. They just know that these are the things I need to do. If I'm doing, and then this is the outcome. So if a surgeon, for example, is doing heart surgery, they're, the first one, yeah, they're probably nervous, but that's the reason why they go to medical school and practice on cadavers. But after a while, you develop your skill, your mindset. You're not thinking about losing the patient or whatever, because if you were thinking that would be the outcome, the person would be a horrible surgeon. So you have to be aware of what creates the shot for you. Nicholas talked about vision. He saw the ball flight.
Yeah.
For me, I like to get to the point of knowing. So when I can look at a putt and just mentally I'll read the green, whether it's through augmented reality apps or whatever, golf scope. I know exactly this aim point. This putt breaks 2.3 inches. I know the speed. I know the feel. I can put that in and away I go because I already know it. I don't worry about missing it. I don't worry about making it. That would be focused on outcome. I'm just focused on what do I need to do to give myself the best effort. And it's just knowing. So it is practice though. You have to practice that mindset just as much as you have to practice the mechanics.
Is there a way to either force yourself to get into the zone or at least make the opportunity to be in the zone happen more often?
Yeah, there's definitely some training out there. A couple good books, The Flow. I cannot pronounce this guy's name, but just look it up. And we can post that up on the website or something like that on your website. Jim Fannon's another good guy. Read his stuff. Really like what he has to say and some of the research that he's done. And I use a lot of his stuff. So like for players, when they get dejected, what happens? You see them on the golf course. They're just kind of heads down, everything else. Well, we started looking up at the trees because your mother always told you keep your chin up. And what happens just from the blood flow, I haven't really dived into this, but your mindset can change when all of a sudden you're looking at the top of the trees, watching the clouds. Some of those bad thoughts just emotionally just get dumped out. Don't know the physiology behind it. I'm sure there's something with blood flow and obviously some neurotransmitters going on, but those are some things. So yes, you can train yourself. You can train yourself people use breathing to train themselves. People use blank screens to quiet their mind or different things like that. So there is some different techniques. And it is very challenging. That's the reason why when Tiger was winning all the time, or most of the time, 50% of the time, it was phenomenal. because he achieved. But the skill, the developing of the skill really builds up the confidence. That's the practice, mindset practice, and then skill practice. He knew exactly where the ball was going. There was no fear. There was no failure to meet your outcome.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in his comeback that the worst shots I've ever seen hit in PGA Tour events have all been by Tiger Woods. It could be because maybe they showed every single shot of his. They don't show every single shot of, Tommy Fleetwood or whatever. But definitely, you think about when he was at the Players Championship. I think he snap hooked like 3 shots in the water in the last 4 holes, and he had a lot of topped 3 woods. He had a thing with the tops. He had a lot of flubbed at his Hero World Challenge. He had a real issue with flubbing his wedge shots around the green. It's the worst shots I've seen. But also, like, a few months, like, he never let that affect who his image of Tiger Woods was ever. So like that was not like it was like he never even really to me like looked embarrassed. He's like it was just like a thing that happened, huh?
Right. I think we get caught up into trying to meet other people's expectations, and that's just not healthy. I mean, you're doing the best you can, and you're going to work on your mechanics. You're going to work on your swing, and the ball's only going to react to the alignments you bring the club into it. And I think that's the thing that people miss is what is the golf club doing? If we can focus more on the golf club and let everything else fall back into that system, then we're going to be fine. But if we get caught up into the body and all this and we don't know where the club is, well, then anything can happen.
Okay, so there's 3 things that we could focus on, Tony. What do you recommend? We could focus on what is the ball doing, what is the club doing, what is the golfer doing? What do you recommend?
I like the ball, club, and then golfer in that order.
Okay.
So let me create, and that's the reason why for me to go when I started back out playing is I wanted to see ball flight. I was trying to create shots. I wanted to get a feel that way, so that way I can learn from the ball flight. The ball flight doesn't lie per se. It can be misleading, but if the shot goes left, the face and the path weren't lined up properly.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can start working those out.
Is that how you kind of teach your golf lessons too? To get under the hood a little bit, is like you'll look at, okay, what's the ball doing and whatever, and then you'll look at, okay, how are they moving the club, and before then you go all the way back to like, okay, now let's look at how your arm or your foot or anything like that.
Yeah, I've seen it just too many times where people love success. We all love success. We want to be successful. We want to hit great shots. Well, let's get, even if things are a little bit sloppy, let's take your motion, for example. You went up a little bit, but you fixed it. Okay, you hit a great shot. Okay, now you're feeling kind of good. Hey, I hit a good shot. Okay, here's some of these things we got to work on. Oh, okay, but I can still hit a good shot. Now, take your same scenario. Let's say you were topping shots and you were working and you were seeing the up and down, the same motion, but you were hitting the ball all over the place. Your mindset is, oh man, I got to fix that. I got to fix that.
Yeah. Panicked.
And panic mode. And so now all of a sudden you trying to improve your swing, you're focused on so much information that's irrelevant to you learning that it becomes a distraction and kind of an interference to your learning process.
All right, final question, Tony, and then I'll let you go. Somebody made a comment, and I think you'll have some comments to this. Somebody said, because I think they probably just dropped in on the channel, they said, I had no idea golf was so complicated. It's just simplify for us the task of what we should do to get the ball from point A to point B, in the full swing or longer swings. Right. Just, is golf that complicated? Because if you listen to this whole conversation, you'll think, well, yeah, it really is. But I think you can boil it down into a way that you can make it seem it's actually pretty basic.
Yeah, I think if you can understand that it's an underhand throwing motion, and I'm tossing the ball underhand and going forward, and my arms are doing more of the work, and they're just kind of swinging along, and just get a feel for those arms swinging back and through, you're going to, even if it's off a tee, you're going to be able to hit the ball. It shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes to fix your slice. Feet together, off a tee, 7-iron, and just start learning how to get the arms working. And it really shouldn't take more than 15, 20 minutes. I mean, that's the best success I've had. And I've always tried to challenge myself. I'm probably closer to 20 minutes than I am to 15, but my goal is to see if I can get a brand new golfer, never swung a golf club before, or really bad, in 15, 20 minutes, can I get that person to hit at least one good shot? And then we can start building up from there. So arm swing is the most important thing to get going. And if you look at kids, look at your kids. You don't have to tell them much to how just swing away, and it's just, well, Xander has got a great golf swing.
Yeah, yeah, it's been interesting because he said to me the other day he's having a better time hitting into the net actually, and which is probably because he's like a perfectionist. So like when he sees that it doesn't go past that thing that he was trying to hit or whatever,
Yeah.
But just into the net too has been cool because you can pick out little spots. Like he has kind of a thing where he aims to the left and then aims to the right and swings to the left. So you can write with chalk on the ground, like okay, put your feet here, and then an arrow of chalk towards kind of first base, and like hit that part of the net. It's like it's a little. It kind of reduces like it's right there in front of you rather than like 100 yards away.
Yeah, and that's focusing on the process instead of the outcome.
Yeah.
You know the outcome. Well, I want the ball to draw. So what's the process to make you doing it without being bit by bit pieces?
Okay, Tony, how can people contact you and learn more information about getting a lesson from you remotely, or just about more in-depth information?
So inside the golf lab, I've kind of opened it up to people right now. Just get people in there and just giving people a chance to watch all the videos. So they can come in and join free right now. And at some point, once we get things set up, I've kind of shifted my focus a little bit onto some development, and we're working on some products, working on some software.
Anything you can tell us golf-wise about something interesting, technology-wise, that would be in the pipe, or will that be in the future?
Let's just say wearables and new video technology is going to be awesome this year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll leave it at that because the patent's already been published on the wearable technology. So I guess I can talk about that. So I just have to kind of finalize it up a little bit more. But if we can start having you understand and what ground reaction force is with the natural pair, just normal pair of socks, while you're playing golf, and be able to give you some biofeedback through that on the golf course without anyone else. That's kind of the goal, and that's one of the things we're looking on for this summer.
That's cool. And you're always checking in on my golf swing. I'm always checking in on your health. Are you losing weight or gaining weight during lockdown?
Yes. I've actually lost some weight overall,
okay.
But there's times where I'm sitting on a computer so much right now.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to classes. I've been teaching this online class. We've got 292 students in class. So obviously halfway through the semester, we got to everything online. And that was the worst thing because I was doing great.
Oh, yeah.
But now we got the gym outside, working on that.
Yeah, I want to see some of those moves. That looks cool. That stuff back there. Yeah.
I'm going to do some. I'll shoot some video on that once we get this weather. We've just been having a lot of cold, rainy days, so it's been no fun shooting there. Once in a while, we get those good days, but so overall, waist size has gone down. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Back feels better, and we just got to keep going. So the bad news is just sitting in front of a computer all day and snacking. I'm calorie counting right now.
Yeah. Get that app, the Lose It app. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. There's a couple comments come in that thank you for the stream. Guys, click the subscribe button below and make sure to hit the bell because that's the only way that you'll get notified that we are going on live. I'm going to have Tony back on or another guest next week. Tony, I'll see you for a lesson soon. And if you guys want to contact Tony, just do TonyLuczak@gmail.com is a great spot to email him. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye. All right.
See you guys.
Bye,
Take
Tony.
care. Bye.